The scanner blinked red. Sergeant Maya Davis pressed her finger to the glass a second time, and a second time it refused her. Behind her, Sergeant Barnes was already shouting, already pointing, already certain she didn't belong. She had walked onto this base 100 times before. Today, somehow, the gate didn't know her name. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. Maya kept her eyes on the small green light, willing it to change. The morning air was thick with late summer heat, and dust hung lazily in the sunbeams slanting through the iron gate behind her. She could feel the weight of her pack pulling at her shoulders, the same pack she'd carried through 2 deployments, the same hands that had carried wounded men out of places she still dreamed about. None of that mattered to Barnes. To him, she was just a name that didn't match a database, a delay in his morning, an inconvenience standing between him and whatever he thought he was protecting. "Ma'am, step aside," he barked, loud enough that the small crowd gathering near the gate turned to look. A few recruits shifted their weight, unsure whether to watch or pretend not to. An older soldier near the back went very still, the way people do when they sense something is about to go wrong in a way no one can stop. Maya didn't step aside. She'd learned, over the years, that stepping aside rarely solved anything. It only delayed the moment when she'd have to stand her ground anyway. "My credentials are valid," she said, keeping her voice level even as her pulse climbed. "Run it again." Barnes laughed, short and sharp, the kind of laugh that wasn't really a laugh at all. "I don't think you understand how serious this is, Sergeant. Falsifying ID at a secured gate isn't a paperwork issue." She thought she'd never have to explain herself like this again. She was wrong. What none of them knew, what Maya herself had almost forgotten in the chaos of the moment, was that the scanner beside her wasn't just any biometric panel. It was bolted to the base of the Wall of Honor, a bronze monument etched with the names of those who had given everything. Colonels, captains, sergeants, names polished by decades of grateful hands. The panel had been installed years ago as a quiet tribute, a way for visitors to verify a name and read the story behind it. Almost no one used the fingerprint function for anything else. Almost no one knew it was tied to military service records dating back further than the base's modern checkpoint system. Maya knew. Her grandfather's name was on that wall. She placed her hand on the cool bronze plaque beside the scanner, steadying herself, and for a moment the noise of the gate, the murmuring crowd, Barnes' raised voice, all of it dimmed into a kind of hush inside her own chest. She thought of her grandfather, a man who had never spoken about the war he came home from, who had only ever told her one thing. That courage wasn't about being unafraid. It was about doing the right thing while your hands were still shaking. Her hands were shaking now. She pressed her finger to the scanner one more time. The light blinked, hesitated, and turned green. But it wasn't her access badge that populated on the screen. It was a name from the wall itself. A connection buried in an old archival record, linking her enlistment file to a name etched in bronze decades earlier. The system hadn't recognized her as a stranger. It had recognized her as family. A young private near the back gasped audibly. The murmur that swept through the gathered soldiers wasn't confusion anymore. It was something closer to reverence. Barnes' arm, still raised and pointing, slowly began to drop. "That's not possible," he said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "Pull the registry," Maya said quietly. "Cross-reference Colonel R. Harrison," the name on the plaque. The same surname buried in her own service record, a connection she had never advertised, never used, never needed, until a man with more confidence than sense decided her face wasn't proof enough of who she was. There is a particular kind of silence that falls over soldiers when they realize they've misjudged someone. It isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It is simply still, heavy, and complete. Barnes stood in that silence now, his jaw tight, his pointed finger curling slowly back into his palm. Here is the moral weight of the moment, and it's worth sitting with. Certainty is not the same as truth. Barnes had been certain. He had been wrong. And the gap between those two things is where so much harm quietly lives. In workplaces, in checkpoints, in everyday judgments we make about people before we've earned the right to. Maya didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She simply looked at him, steady and unshaken, and said, "I just wanted to walk through the gate." An older sergeant near the back, the one who'd gone still earlier, stepped forward and did something none of them expected. He saluted her, not because regulation demanded it, but because some moments call for honor that no manual can require. One by one, without a word, others followed. Barnes lowered his hand fully now, and for the first time, said simply, "I'm sorry, Sergeant Davis." Because kindness doesn't vanish. It waits, and it finds its way back, sometimes through a bronze wall, sometimes through a fingerprint, sometimes through a single soldier brave enough to stand still while the world questioned her. The gate finally opened, and on the wall behind her, a grandfather's name caught the morning light, just as it always had, waiting patiently for her to come home. If this story moved you, tell me below. Have you ever been misjudged by someone who didn't take the time to truly see you? Share it in the comments. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, subscribe. There's more waiting for you at the gate.